Thank you for allowing me to guide you through your practice. Today's class, I'd like to focus on our warrior poses. There are many different variations, and there's a little bit of irony in that with our yoga 8 limbs of practice that Patanjali outlines, the very first rule is ahimsa, which means non-harming. And yet we practice warrior poses, with the root being war. And so instead, the idea that the yogi warrior is working against our own limitations or weaknesses in order to bring out the best version of ourselves. And in our yogi warrior, we're working to find more of a triumphant spirit, harnessing the resilience, strength, wisdom, endurance, flexibility of a warrior. The idea is that we're in warrior poses, we're extending outward and hugging the midline or hugging in towards our source of power, or to the grace of God, or the universal spirit or energy. And then finally, I'd like to share a quote that a friend shared with me. This is by Jennifer Wellwood. "Willingness to experience aloneness, I discover connection everywhere. Turning to face my fear, I meet the warrior who lives within." So I have a couple props that I'm going to probably use today. I have a strap, and if you don't have a strap at home, then you can use a long sleeve t-shirt or a belt. And then I have 2 blocks, and if you don't have 2 blocks, then you might use a pillow or books, something else to help sometimes bring the floor to you can make the pose a little bit more feasible. So we'll get started. I've been working with the pranayama practice of square breathing, and to find balance, I'm working with inhaling 4, hold and retain for 4, exhale for 4, hold and retain for 4. We'll go through a couple rounds and then we'll begin our practice in a traditional way of chanting Om together 3 times. Please find your seat. Sukhasana means happy, sit with ease. So please thank yourself for your practice, this method of self-care. Maybe considering your intention, what you need to receive from your practice, and also your dedication, your offering, your prayer. Finding any mudra that works for you, if the hands palm facing up, or in Jnana Mudra, the OK sign for clarity and concentration, or the hands palm to palm in front of the heart. We'll take a big inhale here, and exhale, release. Inhale for counts of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, prepare for the first Om. Inhale to receive your vibration. Exhale to surrender and release the breath. Release hands towards thighs, chin towards chest. Blink the eyes open, letting light in, just looking at the floor, the mat, and then lift the chin, the eyes. Okay, we'll get started. Finding yoga is, the asanas are a practice of repetition. And sometimes during very uncertain times, something familiar can help to bring a little bit of calmness and ease anxiety. So we'll start. Inhale, cat-cow, lift the chin and sits bones. And exhale, tuck tailbone under, round. Inhale, lift, and exhale, round with your breath. Mouth open or closed, finding the more Ujjayi breath, which is that victorious breath. If you're feeling a little bit tired or lethargic or sluggish today, you might take longer inhales. If you find that you need more releasing, then you might take longer exhales. And then down dog. Pedaling through the heels. Bending the knees, lifting the sits bones up high, pulling the pelvic floor up and in, navel in with each exhale, throat back, so employing all three bandhas or locks. Clawing the finger pads in, shift forward plank pose. Inhale, rock forward onto the tiptoes, exhale, press through the heels. I really like plank poses, so we're gonna play with some of those as well today. Wiggle the feet towards midline or center. Stand on the left foot and take the right toes on top of the left heel. And use your toes to help press through the heel and get the stretch in the Achilles heel. And then rock forward onto the tiptoes. Weight in the finger pads and exhale, press through the heels. And then inhale, bend the right knee towards the right elbow and cross it over towards the left and towards the right and cross it to the left. Move with your breath. And then step the right foot back, right foot center, left toes on top of right heel. Rock forward and back. And then bending the left knee towards the left elbow and sweeping it across towards the right elbow. Stepping the foot back, bring the hips high, big exhale, down dog. Take the hands and grab the outside edge of your mat where the knuckles are down and the thumb is on top. And then wrap the outer armpits back so the insides of the elbows slightly forward, but a little micro bend and not hyperextend. And then bending the knees towards the sticky mat, lift the sits bones up high. And continue to wrap the outer hips and towards the midline. As you're reaching the hands forward like you're gonna rip your yoga mat between your hands and your feet. And then play with bending the knees and straightening. One of my teachers and friend, Leanne, calls this bear crawl. So drop the knees so that they're just hovering barely an inch above the sticky mat. Bring the gaze forward and trying to keep the hips still as you take little baby steps, walking the feet forward towards the hands, but keep the knees bent as you hug the knees into the chest as the feet get closer to the hands. And then walking the feet back. Again, just trying to build heat here with our bear crawl. And then again, walking the feet forward, little baby steps. And then back to down dog. You can release the hands, shift forward, plank pose. Rock forward onto the tiptoes, meet on the belly, either dropping the knees and or bending the elbows, lower the thighs. And the pelvis down as you curl up into Bhujangasana or Cobra Pose. You might come up high or low. Keep pressing into the knuckle of the thumb, first finger and inside of the wrist for that inner triad. Claw the finger pads in and tug the heels of the hands back towards the hips to bring the sternum forward. With each exhale, pull the ribs in and throat back. If you want to rock side to side, sometimes that can feel good. Exhale, lower yourself down, hands and knees, child's pose, sit the hips back. Big exhale, reconnect to your breath. The belly might be restricted by the weight on top of the thighs, so as you take great big breaths, maybe sending the energy of the breath to the lower back. And then hands and knees. We'll get a couple of wrist stretches in. I'm going to turn towards the camera. Take your hands palm facing up and the fingers towards each other. And try to keep the thumb and the pinky rooted and the fingers wide, and then shifting the weight right to left. You might have more mobility moving one side or the other. And if you find that there's a big discrepancy side to side, then we're always working towards balance, so you might stay longer on one side or the other, depending on which hand you hold the pencil in. And then hands come forward, couple more for our wrists. Turn the fingertips out wide, and then they point back towards the knees. Again, wide spread palm, thumb and pinky down, little micro bend in the elbows, starting to sit the hips back. And maybe you go for the deep stretch and sit the hips back, and then you rock the crown forward, backing off on the stretch. Good job. And then one more while we're here. Palm facing up, but the fingertips point back towards the knees. Same idea, wide palm, thumb and pinky reaching down. Elbows might bend deep here. And then again, if you want more, you start to sit the hips back. If it's too much to do it both hands at the same time, or you notice a big difference side to side, then just do one at a time. And then when you feel ready, slowly turning the hands forward, down dog. We'll open up the hips here in a three-legged down dog, so left foot stays rooted, and the right foot lifts with the right toes pointing right. Bend the knee, letting the heel fall towards glute. And then play with movement in the ankle or circles with the knee. But I want you to take a peek at the left knee, and if it's rotating in at all, then pull the left hip back, and you might back off on not having the right hip stacked totally on top of the left. When you feel ready, re-extend the leg and lower it. Second side, left leg lifts. Left toes point left, bending the left knee so that the left heel falls towards right glute, but not at the compromise of letting the right knee roll in. Any movement that feels good in your body. And then lowering the left foot down, come forward, plank pose. Wiggle the feet towards each other. Inhale, bend the right knee towards the forehead, round between the blades towards navel. And then stepping the foot high, three-legged down dog, right toes point straight down, lift up through the right inner thigh. Pull the left hip back like you're scooping the left glute under, and press the floor away evenly in both hands. And then lower it down. Right foot comes center. Inhale, bend the left knee towards the forehead. Round between the blades, look towards navel. Squaring the hips. And then the three-legged down dog with hips square. Left toes point straight down, pull the right hip back, and lift up through the left inner thigh. Keep pressing the floor forward with the hands. Outer armpits wrap back. Lowering the foot down, shift forward, plank pose. From plank pose, flip both heels to the right. And root down into both hands and squeeze the heels of the hands back and the hands towards the midline, that hugging into the source or center or universe or God. And then heels come center and they flip left. Press down firmly into both hands, but especially the right hand. Squeeze the feet together and hug the upper outer hips and wrap them in towards midline. And then center, down dog. Shift forward, plank pose, chaturanga. Curling up into cobra or up dog or sphinx pose. Keeping the elbows bent a little bit to pull the head of the arm bones back. And then child's pose, sitting the hips back. Find that idea of surrender or rest. Folding inward, removing the chaos. Reconnecting to your breath and the familiarity. Hands and knees, down dog. Walk the feet forward. You can continue to pedal through the heels, or you're welcome to hop or walk the feet forward. Lengthen the spine, inhale. Shoulders shrug up. And exhale into standing forward fold. You can bend the knees enough so the belly is on top of the thighs and bringing the hands to the floor or blocks, but then pressing down into the hands to send the inner thighs back, wide and apart. Inhale, lift the crown forward into flat back. Staying here long enough, find some equilibrium so that when you're ready, we'll rise to stand and hopefully you can avoid being dizzy. And then just that pause. Either hands at hips, palms facing forward or at the heart. Big inhales and exhales. A few rounds of our Surya Namaskar A. Exhale the hands like Tadasana. And inhale the hands up and overhead. Exhale, cactus the elbows. Inhale, sweep the arms up. And exhale, dive over the legs, standing forward fold, or Uttanasana. As you come into view of your feet, see the inner edges of the feet parallel. Inhale, lengthen the spine. And exhale, fold inward again. Keep the knees kind of softly bent forward and either hands to hips, or you can reverse the swan dive. Sweep the arms up. And exhale, cactus the elbows. Inhale, lift the arms, and exhale, dive back over the legs, standing forward fold. Inhale, lengthen the spine, and exhale, fold inward, Uttanasana. Inhale, rise to stand, again, your method. Sweep the arms up, and exhale, cactus the elbows. Inhale, bring the hands up, side body stretch, right hand reaches across for left wrist. Grow up tall to the ceiling, and then tip right. Outer armpits roll forward, throat back so the ears stay on the insides of the biceps, and you're using your hands to get the stretch between left hip and shoulder. Legs are firm and engaged. Inhale, rise. Left hand, right wrist, grow tall. Tip left. You're welcome to rotate chest and chin up, but try not to let the left hip move ahead or forward of the right. Inhale, rise. Exhale, dive back over the legs to fold inward again. Inhale, lengthen. And exhale, fold. Chair pose. Sit the hips back, extend the hands forward. Weight is in the heels here, lifting and spreading the toes and kind of squeezing the legs towards each other. And then just a method of self-adjust. Cross one wrist over the other. I have my left over my right. Take the hands to the inner thighs, fingertips pointing back, and use the hands to rotate the inner thighs back, wide apart, and then firm the glutes, tone the pelvic floor and the lower belly, and keep that engagement. Extend the hands forward again. Really reaching across the room, pinkies roll in and the thumbs lift up. Arms are straight and strong, and like you're squeezing a block between the hands and between the legs. Inhale, rise to stand. Exhale, open the heart. Sit the hips back. Keep sending the inner thighs back, wide apart. Sits bones lifting, and as you tone pelvic floor, the tailbone points straight down towards the heels. Keep pulling the lowest rib towards the hip point, the Uddiyana or navel lock, and then the throat back. But then once the throat is back, if you want to look forward, go for it. Rise to stand. Open the heart, any bent elbow shape or straight arms. And exhale, sit again, chair pose. Starting to build some heat here. Keep fueling it with the breath and maintaining it through the locks, the pelvic floor up, ribs and throat back. And then fold inward, big exhale. Mouth open or closed if you need to release that heat. Inhale, lengthen, and exhale, fold. Place the hands, step the right foot back, lunge pose. Left foot wiggles a little bit wide to the left, lift up onto your fingertips. And then coming more onto the ball of the right foot to bring the right hip forward and pull the left hip crease back. Then lift up through the right inner thigh as you turn on the quad and the glute. And then setting your drishti slightly ahead of you, clasp the hands just above the knee. Continue to pull that left hip crease back like you're scooping the glute under and lift up through the right inner thigh. Stay here, pull the ribs up and in, and clasp the hands together behind the back. If you need a strap here, the hands maybe aren't coming to touch, that's okay. Or you can even just hold on to your shirt. Keeping the elbows bent a little bit as you press the hands back towards the heel and lift the heavy arm bones up. And then as you're ready, we'll inhale, rise shoulders over hips. I always look down at my hips to see if they're still level and square or any self-adjusting to be made. And then make this a heart opener. As you lift the sternum forward and up, pull the ribs in and the throat back. As you bend the left knee more over the left pinky toe, keep squeezing the left heel back. I try to keep my left toes lifted to maintain the arch. Hopefully strengthen the muscles in my feet and around my ankle. And then a little bit of movement, so keep the hips as they are. The legs are a strong foundation. And inhale, as you reach the crown forward, pull the left hip back, kind of hovering over the bent knee. And then inhale, come back up. And just go slowly forward and back. Move with your breath. Inhale, lifting, and exhale, folding. And then as you're ready, hands come down, runner's lunge, instep with the left foot to wiggle the left foot wide and forward. I like to drop my knee. Keep tugging that left heel back. It's up to you if the right toes want to tuck or point, but not letting the right toes turn in. And then sitting still with the hands to the instep of the foot, sit the hips back like a half splits pose. And once you get there, then drop the head and see that the hips and shoulders are in line. Keep wrapping the outer armpits back and then lifting the biceps and shoulders. You're balancing on the left heel here and put some strength. Left heel presses down. Press into the ball of the left foot and keep pulling your toes back towards you. This is really intense on that hamstring. You might back off of it and come forward. And then sit the hips again. And then as you're ready, coming forward, inhale, back plank pose. Rock forward onto the tiptoes, shoulders past wrists. Take your chaturanga, not letting shoulders dip past elbows. Curl up cobra or up dog. And again, any little movement, not letting the hands curl up, and keep the fingers spread wide. And then we'll meet back, down dog. Inhale, look ahead of the hands, bend the knees, hop or walk your feet forward. Lengthen the spine when you get there. And then big exhale to fold inward again. Inhale, rise to stand, your method. Take the heart opener at the top, and again, that pause. And then as you're ready, release the hands, sweep them up again. And exhale, dive over the legs to fold inward, or Uttanasana. Inhale, lengthen. And exhale, fold. Place the hands, left foot back, lunge pose. I wiggle my right foot a little bit wide to the right. And then lifting and spreading the right toes, squeeze the right heel and hip back, and lift up through the back left inner thigh. Left hip is coming forward, so that might mean you come a little bit onto the ball of the back foot. And then rising so that you're just hovering over the bent right knee. Keep pulling that right hip back and scooping the glute under, left inner thigh lifts. And then finding a strong and firm core as you clasp the hands together behind the back, press the hands back, and lift the heavy arm bones up. Keep pulling the sternum forward and the ribs in. And then that movement, rise shoulders over hips. The right knee is wide or pointing to the right pinky toe. And then folding, but not letting the hips move. It's really just the upper body. And lifting, inhale, folding, and exhale, lifting. Or the other way around with the breath. And then as you're ready, we'll bring the hands down to the instep of the left foot for the runner's lunge variation. Right foot wiggles wide. You might drop the knee and or come to forearms. But keep the muscles alive in the right leg by squeezing the right heel back, lifting and spreading toes. And again, you can probably see I'm kind of backing off of the posture, scooping the right glute under and engaging the left, and then revisit sinking the hips forward and down. If you have room, maybe it's forearms, or I use my pillow, my bolster. And then the half splits variation, or Ardha Hamunasana. So sitting the hips back, and here you're balancing on the right heel, but press into the ball of the right foot and pull your toes towards you. Put some pressure down into the right heel, and then observe hips level and square or in line with the shoulders. Maybe walking the hands forward and clawing the finger pads in. Return to your breath. And again, you can either really go for the deep stretch or back off of it a little bit and then go for it again. And as you're ready, replacing the hands. Step the foot back, plank pose. We'll come into Vashisthasana, or side plank. Please walk the left hand about one handprint forward and flip both heels to the left. Now you can either stagger the feet or you can stack them, your choice. The right hand might come to the hip. You might give yourself a kickstand and bring the right foot ahead. If the hand lifts up, imagine giving me like an air high five to help pull the ribs in, and keeping the right hip stacked upon the left. Glutes are engaged, upper inner thighs, throat back. But if you want to start to turn the gaze, don't let the hips swivel with you. Any variations? I'm gonna flip mine over for a heart opener, wild thing, bending the right knee. The right palm faces down, and I'm pressing down to the feet to lift the hips up high. Whenever you're ready, hand down, and your rest might be down dog, it might be hands and knees, or going through another chaturanga and heart opener, or your transition, it might not be a rest. And then inhaling forward through plank pose to come into Vashisthasana on the other side. So walk the right hand about one handprint forward. Flip the heels right. And remember, your variation does not have to match. Keeping a little micro bend in the elbow. And playing with your variation on this side. That air high five to help pull the ribs in. Firm the glutes, hug the upper inner thighs. And then if you did wild thing, bending the left knee, foot to the floor. I have to remember to not hyperextend my standing elbow. And whenever you're ready, unwind. And we'll meet back down dog, but that might include any transition like a heart opener, or sitting the hips back and resting in child's pose. And then down dog. Look ahead of the hands, bend the knees, hop or walk your feet forward. Lengthen the spine and exhale, fold. And then again, rise to standing pose. Reconnecting to your breath. Maybe your drishti of embracing the qualities of a warrior. So we've only done one so far with the heel lifted variation or the high lunge variation. We'll come into Virabhadrasana 1. So as you're ready, and this will be more of vinyasa, exhale the hands like Tadasana, mountain, and inhale Urdhva sweep the hands up. Exhale, fold inward, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, and exhale, fold Uttanasana. Place the hands, step the right foot back, flip the right heel down, right toes to the right corner of the mat. Inhale, rise up, warrior one. Hip points straight ahead, bringing the hands forward and up. Exhale, hands down through the midline, either side of the front foot. Inhale, step back, plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Cobra or up dog. Exhale, down dog. Inhale, right foot forward. Exhale, left heel down. Left toes point to the left hand. Inhale, rise up, hips level and square. Virabhadrasana 1. And exhale, hands down through midline, either side of the front foot. Inhale, back plank pose. Exhale, chaturanga. Cobra or up dog. Exhale, down dog. Inhale, looking forward, hopping or walking the feet, lengthen the spine, inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise to stand. Exhale, dive back over the legs to fold. Inhale, lengthen. And exhale, fold. Place the hands, left foot back, left heel down. Inhale, rise, Virabhadrasana 1. Warrior 1. I'm widening my right foot to the right to prepare for humble warrior. Hands through midline, then together behind the back. This is where you might use your strap or clasp. You can either keep wrists wide and elbows bent or squeeze palms together, but lift the chest up, pull the right hip back. Left toes point forward to the left corner. As you're ready, bowing the right shoulder towards the right knee or inside of the knee, releasing the head physically or metaphorically. And then as you come into view of your hips, keep pulling the right hip back and firming the left quad. There's a surrendering action, but keep hugging the midline, squeezing the heels. You might not feel like surrender at all. This pose is appropriately named Humble Warrior. Inhale, rise. Okay, Twisting Warrior. Right hand, right hip to pull the right hip back. Left hand forward. Reach the left hand across the room, pull the right shoulder back. Hips do not move, legs do not move. Maybe the gaze changes, maybe not, maybe the arms change. And again, you're like doing this air high five action to find the ribs pulling in. And then the right hand lowers. Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1 again. And then hands down through midline, either side of the front foot. Inhale, back, plank pose. Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale, either Balasana, Child's Pose, or Adho Mukha Svanasana, Down Dog. And then second side, left foot forward, right heel down. Inhale, rise to Virabhadrasana 1. Again, manipulating your hips so they're level and square, pointing straight ahead. As you bend the left knee over the left pinky toe, dig the right heel down and squeeze the feet towards each other. Bringing the hands up, Warrior 1. Hands through midline, clasp together behind the back, Humble Warrior. Press the hands down, lift the chest up. Dive the left shoulder towards the left knee. That might mean you need to widen your left foot more to the left. So either the shoulder can rest on top of the knee or to the inside, bowing the head, crown down towards the floor, drishti back up towards your navel. Lift the heavy arm bones up. Keep pulling that left hip crease back, not letting the hips sway to the left. Inhale, rise. Sweep the hands up, Virabhadrasana 1. And then the Twisting Warrior. Left hand, left hip to pull the left hip and elbow back. Right hand forward. Reach the hand across the room and keep rolling the left shoulder back. And I even use my hands to help pull the left rib cage to the left. Maybe the drishti or gaze changes or arm variations. And then as you're ready, the left hand towards the floor, left hand and right hand up, Virabhadrasana 1. And exhale, hands down through midline, either side of the front foot. Inhale, plank pose. Exhale, Chaturanga. Cobra or up dog or Sphinx pose. And you can rest in Child's Pose or roll over the feet, Down Dog. Working forward to the front of the yoga mat, look ahead of the hands. Bend the knees, hop or walk your feet forward, lengthen the spine, inhale. Exhale, fold. Mouth open or closed, but big exhales. Might be a sigh. Stick the tongue out like lion's breath and release some of that heat. And then taking your time, we'll meet on our feet, rising to stand, your method to get there. But once you do, then finding that pause again. Okay, a few more warrior poses checked off the list. Now we'll come into warrior 2 variations. So the left foot will stay forward and please step the right foot back. And while the stance might be wider in warrior 2, now we're taught that the right toes point more still towards the right corner of the yoga mat, like they do in warrior 1. And then self-adjusting, taking the left hand to the top of the left hip and roll the outer hip crease down as the inner thigh lifts and the right inner thigh pulls back. Then hips stay right, shoulders stay right over hips so that you keep your mind and your heart present and center. And then extending the arms, and I always have to look back at one hand and see wrist, elbow, and shoulder in line. And then maybe the gaze is out over the future, or if it's better on your neck, look straight ahead. Bending the left knee more towards pinky toes. Squeeze the feet towards each other like they just became magnetic. And keep this right glute active. It wants to just rest. And then the right hand down the right leg will reverse. Left hand lifts up. And then leaning over the back right leg. And if you want to go a different arm variation, you might half bind or both arms, a little bit more core work. Inhale, open the arms again, warrior 2. Extended side angle, reaching forward. Elbow can rest above the knee or hand down. Right hand forward, pull the right shoulder back and then extend the bicep over the ear. And imagine you're doing this like karate chop action to help pull the ribs in. Hips don't move, but maybe the chest and chin rotates up. Pinky finger rolls down so you keep the external rotation on the right bicep. Stay low in the hips here. Inhale, rise on up. Warrior 2. Second side, straightening the left leg. Turn the left toes in and the right toes point forward, or right big toe to 12 o'clock. Virabhadrasana 2 on the second side. So angling that back left foot so the left toes point towards the corner of the yoga mat. And then self-adjusting with your hands, squeezing the heels in, extend the arms. And keep trying to pull the heels towards each other. Check wrist, elbow, and shoulder in line. Reverse warrior, the left hand down the left leg, just not weight on the knee. The right hand lifts up. And then you're leaning back over that back left leg. Play with your arm variation. Inhale, open the arms, warrior 2. And then extended side angle or Parsva Konasana, reach forward. Play with the elbow or hand inside or outside of the foot. If you know your knee drifts in, use your hand there to stop it. Keeping it center. Extending left bicep over ear. So you're ideally maintaining length on the bottom right rib cage. Just scoop that right glute under and the left inner thigh back. Maybe rotating chest and chin up underneath the left armpit. If you got creative with your arm variations, you can make it a lot of core work. When you're ready, your in-breath rises you back to warrior 2. And then straighten the front leg. Turn the right toes in. and the left toes point straight ahead. As you're ready, let's cartwheel the hands down, and we'll meet back down dog. You might play with your transition or rest in child's pose. Work your way to the front of the yoga mat, either bending or hopping, or bending the knees and hopping, or walking the feet. Lengthen the spine and fold inward. And as you feel ready, take your time and we'll meet standing pose. And I always have to find a breath or two to pause. Okay, Warrior 3 pose is next on the list. And I'm going to use my blocks here. You might also use a wall if that's helpful for you, or you have one close to you, and if not, you don't need it. But the blocks are really helpful tools for me. So taking the blocks, I like on the higher or more like a tower side out in front of you. And then weight is drifting forward till you're stacked wrist, elbow, and shoulder, and the crown forward. Stand on the left foot. And I'm trying to make the most out of the surface area of my foot. So press the left pinky toe down and spread the toes until you get to the big toe. Just helps the balance to have a wider surface. And then as you're ready, lifting the right foot up. And then dropping the head and turn and look at the right toe pointing straight down, or even slightly in because it just wants to turn out to the side when you're not looking. Pull the left hip back and lift up through the right inner thigh, really turning on the right glute. And then come into a flat back with straight and strong arms, and even kind of squeezing the hands and blocks back to bring the sternum forward. If you're Warrior 3, you can play with arm variations, just feeling hips level and square, but maybe clasping, maybe one arm at a time for airplane arm variation. And then as you're ready, releasing the hands to your blocks or the floor. Standing splits pose. Point the right toes to the right as you open up the right hip. Press down into the finger pads, maybe walking the hands back towards the standing heel. Press down into the hands to lift the right foot up higher. And then play with the balance and standing splits. Bring one or both hand behind the standing calf muscle. And like you're pulling on socks, lift up onto the calf muscle to bring weight forward into the ball of the foot. And then when you're ready, hands come back to the floor. Bend the right knee behind the left. We'll come down into a seated spinal twist. And you want to feel the left hip heavy and rooted to the floor. And if you do not, you would extend the bottom right leg to have hips level and square. Our seated spinal twist here. Left hand comes back. And I'm going to bend the bottom knee. And the right elbow either hugs the left knee, or you can hook the elbow, but press down into the left hand and the left foot to sit tall on the in-breath. Reach across the room with the right hand and pull the left shoulder back as you twist. The twist happens on the exhale. And then your in-breath, find center, and then twisting to the right. Bring the hands out in front of you, and I have to use a little bit of momentum, but the hands come to the mat and you're on your knees. And then shooting the legs back, chaturanga, curl up cobra, up dog, and back to down dog. And then forward to the front of the yoga mat. Lengthen and fold. It's like a reset for me. Virabhadrasana 3 on the second side, or the entire sequence on the second side. So if your blocks were helpful tools for you, this time we'll stand on the right foot. And depending on how taller you are, you want to make sure that the right foot, standing foot, is far enough back so that you can find length in the side bodies. The left leg lifts. Right hip pulls back and firm the right glute, outer hip wrapping in towards midline. Left toes pointing straight down, press into the ball of the foot, flare the toes. Lift up through the left inner thigh, really turning on the left glute. Come into straight and strong arms and a flat back. Chin slightly towards chest, crown forward. Keep breathing. Keep squeezing the hands back towards the right toes to bring the sternum forward. If you played with arm variations, for some reason I always find this side easier than the other. Maybe because I'm right-handed and my right hip is stronger than my left. Release whenever you're ready by bringing the hands down. Open up the left toes to the left for standing splits. Press down into strong arms and bringing the hands back or behind the calf muscle. And again, pulling the calf muscle up to bring weight forward into the balls of the feet. But if maybe lifting and spreading the right toes so you don't feel like you're going to somersault forward. And then bending the left knee behind the right, seated spinal twist. The right hip is heavy and rooted to the floor, and if it's not, extend the bottom left leg straight ahead. And that should root that right hip down. We'll find the closed twist first. So bring the right hand back behind you. And then the left elbow is going to either hug or hook. Press down into the right hand and the right foot to sit tall on the in-breath. Reach the left hand across the room, throat back. And then there's more ease once the throat is back if you also want to turn the gaze. Keep squeezing the right heel back towards the left hip. There's that midline again. And then your in-breath brings you center. And then second side, the left hand back, right elbow to the inside of the knee for the open twisting variation. Your in-breath finds center. And then after all that strengthening work in the hips, I have to find a release, bringing the feet forward. Windshield wiper the knees side to side. And if you don't get a ton of sensation there, you can do it one leg at a time, crossing the ankle above the knee and then rocking the hips side to side, and that usually brings a lot more sensation for me. You might need to back off of it. You might not want this one as much sensation. We're getting there, almost done. And then lots of chaturangas today, so we'll open up the heart in either reverse tabletop or reverse plank. And keeping the sternum forward and the shoulders back. So typically I find a little bit more success if I turn my hands out wide or even point the fingertips back than in the traditional variation where the hands point forward. It tends to make my shoulders down forward. So either knees stay bent and you're squeezing the heels back, or legs will go straight. But then as you're ready, exhale out all the air here. And your in-breath, press down into the feet to lift the hips up, throw it back, and then if you also want to drop the head, go for it. And then lowering down, just a couple of variations of this posture. Left foot will be the rooted, and then the right knee bends out to the right. Now the trick is to keep the hips level and square if you do this variation. So as you're ready, exhaling all the air, and then your in-breath lifts you, and then look at the hips and see again, level and square. That might mean you don't open the right hip as far. Hug the outer hips in towards midline. Lower when you're ready. If you did one leg, please do the other. Right foot is down, left knee bends. Exhale out all the air. Your in-breath lifts you up, hips level and square. More important than dropping the left knee towards the floor. Press down into the standing foot to keep lifting the hips up. Releasing down when you're ready. Okay, more finishing poses. Left leg extends out wide to the left and the right knee bends so that the right heel is more in towards midline. And I'm manipulating my foot to press into the ball of the foot and my toes point towards the knee to engage the muscles in my leg and not stretch or disturb any ligaments or tendons beneath my knee. And then as you're ready, left palm faces up, either on top of the left thigh or inside. And kind of dig that left heel down so that the left knee lifts just a little bit to not hyperextend. And then the right arm lifts up and leaning both arms towards the left leg, and maybe your limbs are long enough to find the bind or not, it makes no difference. But try to keep rooting the right hip heavy. And again, if you want to rotate chest and chin up, hips don't move. And then your in-breath brings you on up. And then we'll twist and cross into Janu Shirshasana. So turning the torso so that it's more facing over the left extended leg. And the left hand out wide of the outside of the left knee, and the right hand either to the outside of the left leg, ankle, maybe foot. And I keep pressing down into my left hand and pulling my left hip back as I reach my right torso towards my left knee. And then really feeling the breath, maybe getting a deep stretch into the lower back and the quadratus lumborum. And then when you're ready, your in-breath finds you center again. And then we'll come into an arm balance called Stargazer pose. So the right hand to the outside of the right hip. The left hand is going to reach forward and then balancing on the knee, extending the leg and lifting the hips up. And then as you're ready, slowly coming down. And we'll find those finishing poses on the last side. So bending the left knee and extending the right leg. And you can probably see I'm pressing my hands down to keep my weight more into the sits bones rather than rocking back onto the tail and rounding. Right palm faces up, either on top of the right leg or inside. And keep the left or right heel digging down, pressing into the ball of the right foot. And then leaning the left arm up and over. And then the Janu Shirshasana variation. So right hand to the outside of the right knee, left hand either to the outside of the right leg, knee, ankle, maybe you can reach the foot, but keep pressing down into the right hand and pulling that right hip back. as you reach the left rib cage towards the right knee. And then really tune into your breath and send the energy of the breath likely to the lower back if you maintain the scooping of the belly up and in, tone of the pelvic floor. And then as you're ready, rising. And then the stargazer arm variation, I love this pose. Left hand down to the outside of the left hip. The right hand is going to come forward and then lifting the hips up, making this a heart opener. Releasing when you're ready. And then bending the knees so that the soles of the feet are together. Press the balls of the feet into each other and the heels into each other, but then the toes kind of spread out away from each other. You should be able to see the arch in your foot. And then I have to pull the flesh back away from my sits bone so I'm more forward. And I kind of like the block here too, or your pillow. But then maintaining a straight spine, pull the belly up and in as you fold. And then rising on up, come down all the way onto your back, please. We'll come into bridge pose, so bending the knees, inner edges of the feet parallel, and you're squeezing the heels back towards your seat. Press down into the feet to lift the hips just a few inches. And then open up the heart. Lift one shoulder to the ear, roll it under. Lift the other shoulder to the ear and roll it under. Here you might clasp, or even you can get a wrist stretch in here. If you come onto the balls of the feet, bring the hands to the lower back. And then bring the heels down and kind of sit on the hands. That is a transition for me to come into shoulder stand. So then, and it might be one leg at a time. I have to keep the weight more into my elbows so that I don't make it neck stand and it keeps weight into my shoulders. But then from here, if you want to go creative leg variations, you could either go 1 foot forward and 1 foot back for splits legs, or wide, but I have a wall there, so I'm not going to do that pose. And then keeping the weight into my hands, weight of my hips into my hands. Maybe more like plow pose. My feet don't come down all the way down because that puts too much weight on my neck. So be aware of that. And then as you're ready, we'll back out of this, working the hips towards the floor. I use my arms here like brakes as I slowly, one vertebrae at a time, work to lower the hips down. And then you can either open the throat and come into fish pose, but I'm going to come into wheel pose because I love this pose. So as the knees bend, I can't see my feet, but the big toes at 12 o'clock. And then I place my hands so that my fingertips point towards my shoulders. First step is inhale, lift up onto the crown or top of the head, and then I'm pulling my shoulders back towards my hips, and then straightening the arms. And keep hugging the midline between the upper inner thighs, not letting the toes and knees splay wide. Release down as you're ready. Whew. Big big exhales. And first I recommend to transition from that pose to stretching long. Maybe observing the energy traveling up and down the spine. But then it feels great to hug the knees into the chest and roll those circles around the lower back by either moving the knees together or in separate circles. And I'm going to come into one last hip opening and then Shavasana. Well earned. Okay, so for your hip opening options, keeping both knees bent, but the right knee will open out to the right to start. And the first option is to take both hands and clasp together behind the left hamstring. The right elbow towards the right knee, and you're pressing the elbow away from the hip. Pressing the elbow into the knee and then kind of squeezing the knee back into the elbow as you pull with the hands, pulling the left knee in. And that might be plenty of sensation. I still have my feet engaged here. However, I like the supine or lying down variation of pigeon pose. So if you want a little bit deeper, the left leg is going to go straight, and I have left hand to right heel and right hand to right knee, and I'm kind of pulling like a bicep curl almost, pulling the heel in. So that's another option. Or you can take the heel to the inside of the elbow, the right hand wraps around behind, and then clasping the hands and keep pressing the left hamstring down. And then as you look at your torso, you want to try to not let all the weight roll to the right. So bringing the weight a little bit more into the left heel and leg. And as you sit the head back into the elbow, it will likely increase sensation in the right hip. And then with the exhale, releasing. And then last side, bending the left knee. We started this by clasping the hands behind the right hamstring, left elbow towards knee, pulling the knee in. And this side, that variation might be plenty. But then if you want to find the supine or lying down pigeon, the right leg goes straight, left heel to the inside of the elbow, left elbow bends behind the head, and it's like a big curl to clasp. And then trying to keep weight heavy into that right leg so the torso isn't shifting too much to the left. But then sitting the head back into the elbow likely will add more sensation to that left hip. Keep the breath. And then unwinding and releasing. And then if there are any finishing poses left in your body, I like the windshield wipering of the knees. And then the last, but certainly not least, is Shavasana, or corpse pose. So the legs extend, the hands either slightly away from the hips, or you might be in like the cactus shape, but letting your body be heavy. There's a slight hint of the heart opening, so the shoulders down the back, so the sternum is slightly up. And if that puts too much of a curve in your lower or lumbar spine, then pick the hips up and maybe tuck the tail, or support a bolster or blanket underneath the knees. Your feet are just flopping out wide. And please pause the video for as long as you need in Shavasana. But then as you're ready to move on, we find fetal pose, so the knees bend. Right arm reaches overhead, roll over onto the right side. Press into the left hand to find your seat. And I'm sitting on my bolster, just on the edge of it. Bringing the hands palm to palm in front of the heart. Please allow yourself to be filled up with the gifts of your practice. Because today's practice was so heavily focused on the warrior poses, the warrior is representative, and we're trying to embody the qualities of resilience, strength, wisdom, endurance, working against our own limitations or our own shortcomings and weaknesses to get them out of the way to help let the best version of ourselves emerge. And remembering that a huge part of that is to hug into that source and the grace of God and the universe, the divine qualities within yourself and then those around you. And then finally, in closing, that quote again by Jennifer Wellwood: willingness to experience aloneness, I discover connection everywhere. Turning to face my fear, I meet the warrior who lives within. Thank you for allowing me to guide you through your practice. The divine light in me honors to look and see that in you and in all living beings. Namaste,